Good morning and welcome to the International Franchise Association's Women's Franchise Committee podcast, For Success, the Stories of Female Franchise Leaders. I'm Amanda Dempsey, a franchise attorney and shareholder with the firm of Saxon and Stump. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with the amazing Shane Evans. We had such a fun time preparing for this interview this week, so I can't wait to ask her all these questions and have all of our listeners get to know her a little bit better. So if you don't know her, and I don't know how you don't, Ms. Evans is the co-founder and stepping back in as CEO of Massage Heights, and also the co-founder and COO of Elevated Brands. She has over 20 years of experience in franchising and in the health and wellness space. She grew her personal massage business into an empire of over 120 locations in the US and Canada. In the past handful of years, Elevated Brands has also invested in the Gents Place, which is a men's salon concept with locations in 5 states and counting. Shane's an industry expert and frequent guest speaker at both health and wellness and franchising events and conferences. We're happy to say she's also very active with the IFA and is a current member of the IFA Board of Directors. So welcome, Shane. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Sometimes it takes someone else introducing you to remember the things that you've done or do.
I get that. I know it's probably been, like everything else, it's a journey, right? So you've racked up quite the accolades over the years.
Well, thank you. I know you have too. So we've got a lot of peers amongst us that have done some really amazing things, which is what is so awesome about franchising.
Yeah, that's true. And so let's jump into your story a little bit, because I know you have lots to tell us about how Massage Heights got started and kind of your journey in franchising. So for those who don't know your story, I kind of like to start at the beginning. So it seems like your upbringing and then some of your own personal health events really collided into what we now know as Massage Heights. So tell us a little bit about your family. I've read and heard from you that you grew up in a really entrepreneurial family. So tell us a little bit about that.
I did. Both of my parents were very entrepreneurial. They always had jobs. So I would say they are like the epitome of small business owners in America. They had jobs, they had side businesses, and eventually they had one business that they were able to build into several locations and serve restaurants across, South Texas and so on and so forth. But throughout my life, their journey was filled with, let's try this and let's try that. And we always had, people at our home that they were, entertaining or educating, I should say, on these different business concepts. And so got to experience that early on. My dad also came from a very small town in Wisconsin, a town of 800, where my grandparents owned the only grocery store in the city. And he was the mayor and the chief of the fire department and all of these things. So I think it's just sort of in our family history. But I will, kind of moving forward to Massage Heights. In my early 20s, I experienced some pretty terrible back pain that was something that occurred about every 6 months. And I finally found massage therapy as a way to heal that process that would generally take weeks. And massage therapy got me up and moving in just a couple of days, and I fell in love with the benefits of it. But in my early 20s, massage therapy was not very accessible and it was expensive. But that's where my love and appreciation for the art of massage really kind of came in. In late 2003, 2004, I had an experience in Sedona, Arizona, that was on my birthday, my 34th birthday, actually. Maybe we should cut that out. I don't really want people to know my age. I'm kidding. But I woke up, had a massage at a high-end hotel spa, got taken like cut short. It was fluffy and, $250 or something. And I just remember thinking, there's got to be a better way. And 4 months later, on April 4th, 2004, Massage Heights was born. It was the day that we started our operations in Alamo Heights, which is in San Antonio, Texas, hence the name Massage Heights.
Yeah.
I will tell you there was an argument about the name at some point as we were developing it. And, it's like, well, what are we going to do? Open another one in this area of town and call it like, Massage Oak or massage, and then I thought, okay, wait, the word heights means, elevated, top. Like, how can we utilize that from a marketing perspective and branding and how we make people feel? And that's sort of how things came about. Very, very quickly, we had people coming from all over the city and outside for this wonderful value-oriented service that we were offering with a membership-based model that kept massage therapy affordable so that they could get the benefits of it more often. And we, within 9 months, opened our second location that we owned. And then not long after that, we had members and guests saying, hey, how do I get involved? We really, really want to have ownership in one of these. And so we started exploring franchising. It was just sort of a very, very organic experience based on a really cool concept that people just fell in love with.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's so interesting, the story of the name, because it was I always thought of it the way that you're describing it, right? Like Massage Heights, like an elevated experience, but it initially came from the name of the town. So that's what a happy coincidence, I would say.
Yes, but if the name of the town were something else, it might not have worked out that way, right?
Yeah. That's really cool. I always love to hear those like early kind of branding stories because, I mean, some systems go through brand changes for exactly that reason, right? Like they start with a kind of experimental name and it looks like
Yep.
you hit it right on the head. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
All
We
right.
hope
Well,
so. We believe we have.
yeah, yeah. So that's really neat. So there was kind of a gap in the market, and you went after it based on, something that really helped you personally. That's a really interesting story. So tell us like a little bit about those early days of operating your first location, right? So, you probably, from what I understand, your experience with massage before that point was as a customer, right? So as an owner of a massage location, what was it like opening that first location and tell us about some of those mistakes that you might have made in those first days.
Oh gosh, how long do we have? Not long. I will tell you. So, I mean, we didn't know anything about massage therapy other than the feeling, the benefits, the health benefits. And so I think in the early stages, the scariest part for us was, how do we actually hire massage therapists and what do we need to teach them versus what they already know and all of that. But what we found is that, they're professionals. They've gone to school. They're licensed professionals and they know how to do massage therapy. That's not our job to teach them how to do that. Our job was really to create brand standards that made the Massage Heights experience a unique and special one. But some of the mistakes that we made early on, our first location was 920 square feet. It had 5 rooms, 5 treatment rooms and a bathroom and a very small little lobby. And we quickly realized that during downtime, there was no place for our massage therapists to just retreat themselves and rejuvenate in between treatments. We also realized we had no place for laundry or inventory or anything. So it was one of those funny lessons that you learn, we were trying to maximize the space, obviously, and, just weren't as thoughtful about some of those things we thought a little closet was going to do, but the business just blew up. And that was unexpected and awesome at the same time. So one other like real quick story that I'll tell you is in our second location, very family oriented area. We opened that one 9 months after the first one. And we're like, we have a lot of, a lot of great schools and we have a lot of, moms that are stay at home. They're going to drop their kids off and then, come, but they might still have little ones. So I had this great idea that we would put a little daycare in this second location. And day one, I'm not even kidding, a guest came in with a 1-year-old, I think, somewhere around that. And we had this 1-year-old in the room. And as soon as the mom went into treatment with the massage therapist, this 1-year-old was screaming and did not screaming. And the massage therapist came out at the end of the 1 hour and said, my guest would like 30 minutes more. And I was like, oh my gosh, right. And you can hear this child. Anyway, that was the end of that model.
Yeah.
So
great idea, right?
just that we got rid of that model real quickly. So we've learned a lot of lessons, and those are the early day lessons. And as franchisors, we continue to learn lessons through exploration of testing things and what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I'm sure we haven't learned all the lessons we possibly can, but we have certainly learned very many.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, I mean, operationally, how does that assist you with working with franchisees, right? So, I mean, I imagine that knowledge is really so valuable to your franchisees as they open, and like what can you provide them with that, you know, in addition to the advice, how does that help you assist them?
Well, I think, number one, I mean, some of the ideas that come up, we can actually say, hey, we have tried that. And not just us from the beginning days, but even with other franchisees throughout the tenure of the brand. But I had a franchise advisory council call yesterday, and we were talking about, testing some new innovations that are a little bit outside of the scope of what we normally do. And today we have a very robust organization with a lot of talent that has the ability to go out and vet different products and suppliers. And we have some really incredible franchisees that are wonderful operators that want to be more involved in testing innovations. And so it's a little harder to navigate in some ways because the system is bigger and you have a lot of insights and opinions and all of those things too. But at the same time, we're in a really great stage of the brand where we have access to wonderful franchisees that think outside the box, that are great operators, that can execute well, that will work with us on creating the plans for implementation, along with a really stellar team that really knows how to get it done. So that's what we can offer our franchisees, and it's collaborative. And I think really that's what the franchising is in so many different ways all the way around.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. That's a good segue. So, I think, it seems like it's pretty safe to say that you found a really good fit for yourself professionally in franchising. It sounds like it kind of happened organically for you. So you had some interest, people came to you and said like, listen, I want to open one of these in my town. So, first, did you have any reservations about franchising initially? And then, what is it about it that has been great for you and keeps you kind of coming back?
Well, I think that yeah, initially I did have a little like sort of, right? But not. I think the best way to describe it is um yeah, like p founders in general and franchisees, by the way, we're all risk takers, right? We all are willing to take some risk. And sometimes what you don't know is actually a good thing initially, because you've got blinders on and you're just like, you have this really great vision and you just want to go with it. Um, but I didn't understand franchising initially. And frankly, one of the really funny things in the beginning was that as we were exploring franchising and I was looking for franchise attorneys, I thought that I needed a franchise attorney in San Antonio, Texas, because that's where I was and I wanted a relationship with my lawyer. And I will tell you that there were no such thing as a franchise attorney in San Antonio, Texas. Like, not really one that
Yeah, we're
specialized.
we're a small group.
Yeah, but I will tell you, and I won't name the person, but I ended up partnering with the attorney in San Antonio at a very large, well-known law firm at the time. And he was a pretty young attorney and a client of ours. And he ultimately, we turned him into a franchise attorney. And
It
it
can be
worked.
done. It can be done.
Yeah, and worked together for a very long time. But I would just say that I would avoid that if I knew then what I know now. The access, I mean, there are many more franchise attorneys today than there were, but you are still a very small group. It's a specialty.
Mhm.
And I think the relationship, obviously doesn't need to be in your personal town where you are. It just needs to be with someone that that you really connect with, and it's a partner in business.
Yep.
So just like choosing any other partner, you have to really feel comfortable.
Yeah. That's great. No, I think that's great advice, and I think you're totally right. Like there are times when I have lots of clients like this too, where it's like they want to franchise. They don't really know 100% of what that means, but they know the outcome is what they want, right? So they want they want that relationship with other entrepreneurs. They want to grow the brand, as rapidly as they can. They want to jump on these opportunities. And so I think you're right. Sometimes it is better to just have the vision and then lean on others to kind of help you get there.
It really is. And I think there are often too people that feel like the legal document is the only thing,
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely
and
not.
they don't think of it holistically. There's far more to it. And obviously your franchise disclosure document and everything else that goes along with that is really, really important. So your franchise attorney is critical, but there's more to franchising than that. I have people contact me all the time that say, I think I want a franchise. Who can you recommend to me? And I'm like, you need to really actually think about what it is that you're franchising. And do you have a brand that you can franchise? Is this a sustainable brand? And something that, that you can replicate, and scale. And a franchise attorney can certainly help you with that. But there are many more steps that you have to go through prior to just, saying, well, I'm gonna franchise. And those are some of the lessons that you learn along the way. And I think, the International Franchise Association is very different today than it was when I first got involved. And the resources are far greater than we had before. And the involvement of women like you and others, and the mentorship and all of that is very, very different than it was when we started franchising almost 20 years ago. And so it's wonderful to see how it's evolved in that way. And that, there is no reason at this point for people that have a brand that they'd like to franchise, or they're emerging and they're not sure what to do. There's no reason that they should not be able to find resources that can really help them if they're seeking them out.
Yeah, I agree with that even since my time. I think the first IFA I went to was maybe 2018. So that's, how many years ago? 6 years ago.
Yep.
And I feel like it's changed even in that amount of time. I mean, certainly for myself as a professional, but just in general, the conferences to me just they feel, a bit more welcoming. There's more access for, as you said, kind of the emerging brands. I think there's some statistic out there, but it's like the vast majority of franchise brands are, under the 50 unit mark. And so just making it really accessible, making those resources accessible for those other, brands that are, maybe potentially regional. They don't have any goals of being national or international, and including them in the conversation, but then also having resources for them, I think has been like a real focus of the IFA, which
Yeah,
I think has been really great.
I agree.
Yeah, because it just, it creates access for people like yourself who started off as just really their own business, right?
Yeah, and hey, and today, and one of the things that has changed so much just since, our experience with COVID in 2020 is the online resources now. I mean, going to conferences is always wonderful, and I always encourage people to go to. There are very specific conferences that I think every franchisor should be going to and their team should be going to, but the online resources that we have that we didn't even have, 3 years ago, that started because of, that state of the world, are priceless, frankly.
Yeah, I agree. So I know we kind of started talking about this a little bit, but you're a woman founder and woman CEO. Do you have, how has your experience been as a woman in business? And, what do you think the workplace has improved for women? Do we still need to improve? What are your, opinions about um, just the world, in franchising and otherwise, basically since you started your career in, 20 some years ago to now, have you seen a shift, and how's the experience been for you?
Yeah, in franchising specifically, gosh, I remember my first IFA, which has got to be, I don't know, 15 years or so ago. I didn't go right from the very beginning, but I knew that something had to change, that we needed to be able to do some things better. And I remember a lot of men and I like those men and I'm friends with a lot of those men, but it really has evolved. There are so many more women involved. And one of the things again, I've already hit on it, but the thing about franchising, it truly is a community of people that really care about what franchising means, and protecting it and promoting it in a positive way. And people in this industry really, really do show up to give back and share. And I don't think you experience it as much as many other industries. I have been very, very privileged and blessed to have a group of female friends in franchising, that have been, great mentors and therapists and all of the things. And it's just been so awesome to see, that how things have evolved. I'm excited to see the future when you start thinking about even, past chairs of the IFA and how that has changed over the course of, and I'd have to go back and look, but I don't remember who the first female chair was, but I think there was probably a gap where, you didn't really see any women in that seat for a while. But now look, I mean, we've seen the Shelley Sons and the Catherine Monsons, and we've got Mary Kennedy coming up, and hopefully I didn't miss anybody, but recent, and that's just incredible to see. These women are super inspiring leaders, and I I just hope that I can take some of these wonderful parts of them and apply those to my own leadership. But that is the beauty and nature of franchising, is the access that you have to so many wonderful people that really care
Yeah,
about the
no,
industry.
I've definitely experienced that as well. And I think being a part of this committee has really allowed me to meet so many more. So that's been really great. And there's a lot of opportunity as a woman to get involved in franchising. So I think
Yeah.
I've had that same experience, and I'm glad that it's like that, for founders and CEOs, as well as just, people like myself who are, suppliers in the industry, things like that. So that's fantastic. I guess since we're talking on the topic of, women in the workplace, I would assume that, you have probably more female franchisees than maybe some other brands. Are you experiencing that like, more and more of the people that are applying to be franchisees of your system, are you seeing some more female ownership as time goes on? I mean, I know, I don't know if there's been a shift in that since, the beginning.
I would say in our brand, it's probably been the same all along. We have a lot of, couples, men and women teams, married or not, that are, come into the business together. And we often see that the male counterpart is the sort of the back end, handling the accounting and human resource sort of thing. And then the female counterpart is often the face of the brand in their area. That person that's at the front, that's greeting the guests and all of that. So I think in our brand, because it's in the wellness beauty space, it hasn't evolved as much. We've kind of started out that way, which
Yeah.
is, which is really awesome. And it is a lot of couples teams,
Mhm.
within our brand.
That's really awesome though, that it's even in the instance where it's a team, that you have the woman counterpart kind of being the face of it, right? I think you're right. There's probably something to it being a health and wellness brand, that, the maybe the female face, maybe that person was a massage therapist before they owned their own massage sites or something like that. But that's great. And I mean, I'm sure it's so inspiring to you to see kind of these women, taking the bull by the horns and owning their own business, right? So that's really
I
awesome.
love it. And I don't want to negate the fact. I mean, we've got a lot of men that are in the front of the store as well,
Right, sure.
operating, and are super passionate about, greeting the guests and working with the team members to help them be better, in their roles. We certainly have that too, but it is pretty awesome. Like, I have certain franchisees in my head that, I think about the stories of them when they first came in for our discovery day, and where they were at in their life path, and where they are today. And it's been really, really cool to see because, some people come in and they've had massive success in life. And they've decided they just want to be their own boss. They've got the cash to put in. Others, that's not the story. And they came from maybe a very tough upbringing, or they were going through a very, very difficult personal time in their life, and they had somebody that believed in them and wanted to invest in them, and they became franchisees, and now they're operating multiple locations and they have a multi-million dollar profitable business. That is really, really cool to see. And so I imagine, I know the challenges, and the way that the outside world may see, how lucky they must be, but these are women and men that have worked very hard to get to that point within our brand and throughout the lives before our brand as well. And I love to imagine the things that I actually know about them, which is the experiences that they've been able to provide for their families, educations, a car that they might be driving, whatever. And I see them, picking out that car and driving it off a lot. And that is, that is very surface level kind of stuff, but it's exciting too, because we all dream of having these experiences in life,
Yeah,
and
they're real life things also. It's
they're,
not it's
yeah,
not numbers on a balance sheet, right? It's someone's life, and that's, I mean, that has to be so rewarding for you and just for your whole team, to see people kind of achieve those what are maybe seemingly small milestones in the grand picture, but for that person is such a massive thing. So,
it is. Well, it is. I remember, buying the first car that I wanted, and it was, a Jeep Wrangler, and being able to afford that Jeep Wrangler at the time was a pretty amazing, milestone in my life. So it doesn't matter what it is; it's whatever their why is, and it's really cool to be able to see that.
yeah. That's great. So, let's talk a little bit more about you and who I want to know who's been a really influential part of your journey. So it can be somebody that you mentioned before, or maybe somebody new, but I do love to hear kind of who inspires you and who helps you kind of get through the day. Because as we all know, right, it takes a village. Behind any great person is a support team. So who has really influenced you and been a big part of your journey?
It is very hard to identify just one person.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, is that I just stepped back into the role of CEO. I've been kind of away, still on our board, but not in the day-to-day operations the last 2.5 years, and I'm on day 4. And it has been a whirlwind week, and just getting reintegrated with the team and caught up to speed on some things, and really wanting to move things forward as quickly as we can, and also being mindful and thoughtful. And look, I'm just going to be as authentic as you're going to get right now. Uh, I got home really late last night, and I've had little time between meetings to just decompress. And what I did is I felt teary eyed. I felt like I just felt exhausted, and I felt disconnected from my family. And I got in bed around 10:30, I think, and I called one of my daughters, and and I just started crying when she answered the phone, and she's like, "Are you okay?" So I would say that, my daughters are my biggest inspiration, and the people that I do what I do for. But I've had a lot of amazing influences in my life. My mom is one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. Committed, loyal family member, will do anything to support me, my brothers, my kids, and I do have an amazing network of women that are in franchising, that are founders, hired gun CEOs, that have been an incredible influence in my life as well. And these are people that I know that I can count on, and they are uplifting, and they help build the confidence when you need it, and we all need it at times. And I'm very blessed in that way. So I can't say just one person. There's so many.
Yeah, it really does. It's a team effort. I always say that. Family and work, it's a team effort. And if you like to be a team player, there's usually some people out there that are willing to team up with you. So that's
It's really true. And, I want to make sure that I state that, like, the tears weren't because I'm so excited to be back.
yeah.
It's that I am energized. I am pumped about the future. But you know how, like, there are certain people in your life when you talk to them, you just let down,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
you can just be you. And, that was me last night.
Yeah, well, I can attest that we prepped for this call on Wednesday and we were both kind of running around. I was at a soccer practice and you were coming off a meeting and I could tell you were definitely buzzing with all kinds of excitement and yeah, I mean, it's kind of thrilling to have you back in the seat, I'm sure, for everybody, including yourself and yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky to be able to talk to you on day 4 and also
Oh,
day 2. So
well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So we wish the best for you because I know it's a change for sure. And I think, probably one that you've had before, a role you've had before, but jumping back in is always a new journey. So yeah, that'll
Yep.
be great.
Yep. Yep.
All
Yeah,
right. Well,
I think that, I just would say that, like, look, everybody, we have to have balance in our lives all the way around, and we're not machines. And, we can show up as machines most of the time, but we're also real people, and we have those breaking moments where we just need to get the rest or say no to the thing
yeah.
or cry with a daughter.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I have little guys at home, and I definitely know that they can be an absolute source of inspiration and totally a sense of support. I mean,
It's
my
true.
kids are smaller, but they support me in ways they probably don't realize. So, they're a big part of it, and I'm glad for you that you have them to call, and I hope someday I can make those same phone calls. Right now, it's more like, over a teddy bear and stuff like that, but
Yeah, I get it. Yes, different stages of life.
yeah, yeah. All right. So we're going to wrap up with just one more question. And just I like to know what kind of advice you have for, women entrepreneurs today. Because I mean, you are truly the definition of, an entrepreneur. I mean, you started the business with just an idea that, evolved into this, like I think I said at the top, really this empire that we all know and love. So what advice do you have for women entrepreneurs today?
I think the best piece of advice I can get is both be a mentor and mentee. If you can find a mentor, whether in franchising or outside of it, just someone that has sort of been there, done that, for whatever business that you're in, or just in franchising in general. Uh, I think that puts you ahead of many, and I would be diligent in my pursuit in finding someone or multiple people that are willing to give some time. And I would also say do the same, because what I've experienced the last couple years, especially, I have taken on some of those mentorship roles in an informal capacity, and there are emerging brands, women specifically, that I talk to every single month and talk to them about some of the challenges that they're facing, and they resonate. And I want to be able to help them avoid some of the things that I didn't. But what I get out of it is so much greater than the time I put into it, because I not only feel good for giving that time, I always learn something from them as well. So I think I would say be a mentor, be a mentee, both.
Yeah, get your people. Get
People. Yep,
your
that's the
people, make
best
your
way to put it.
community. Yeah, that's great. So if you could give yourself advice, so if you could go back to the beginning of Massage Heights and give yourself advice early on in your career, what would you tell yourself?
Mm, wow. Um, the answer to this question used to be, well, if it was phrased a little bit different, if you're thinking about doing something, my answer was always just do it, because I think that when you have a really strong pull towards something, you should find a way to do it. But I think the advice really is take the time that you need to really think about what you need, right? Sometimes we get into these positions of just operating, one thing after the next. And one thing that I know about myself is that I am far more functional when I say no more than I want to, and that I have the time in between to really be thoughtful about whatever it is that's coming up next, or long term. And so I would say, don't just be the machine that we all have things that we have to get done. But take the downtime to be very thoughtful about how we're going to get them done, and how we're going to take care of ourselves too, frankly, because it is very easy when you start a business, and you've got this little retail business and it requires a lot of hours, but then now you're franchising, it's requiring a lot of hours, and you don't have the resources, and you are wearing all the hats, to find ways to take care of yourself too, mentally, physically, all of that. Get massages.
I was gonna say, do you ever get a massage?
Absolutely. Everyone should have a massage every week. But other ways too, meditation, just taking a few minutes for yourself, even sometimes before meetings, resetting, and getting your mind right.
Yeah, that's so important. I've been really trying to do that a lot more, like, not schedule my meetings like back to back, because I feel that I'm prepared from a knowledge standpoint, but I'm just not prepared like from a time standpoint. Like, I have to take a breath. I have to, switch my mind to the next set of things. And it's like, even just if it's 5 minutes, that 5 minute break. Because the day can really, listen, the day, the year, the decade can really snowball. I'm sure you can attest to that. And it can put you in a spot where you're like, where did this time go?
It really, really does. And I will tell you, this week, I've like, oh, I knew that coming in, that I needed to take those breaks, and I wasn't going to do these back to backs, but things happen and you need to get things done. And so, you just, hey, nope, I can't take 15 minutes right now. I need 15 minutes to regroup.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
great advice. And I think that's great advice coming from the massage queen, because this is everybody's PSA to book your massage. It's we all
Yeah.
need that time for ourselves. And yeah, I mean, it's really easy. It's probably ironic in a lot of senses for you that you have this, health and wellness business, and then, sometimes you have to really carve out that time for yourself. So yeah, I can see that. And it's a good message for everybody to just take that time, take a breath. And I think you're totally right. Focusing on needs is in your own needs, but then also the needs of the company, and not so much the wants or the have tos, is
Yeah.
really an important message for all of us.
Well, and also that if you're feeling that way, your team probably feels that way as well.
Mhm.
Do we really need to have all those meetings? Do we really need to have these, can we be a little more structured and deliberate about what we're talking about and when we're talking about? Because we all need the headspace to really be able to think clearly, so that we can be effective in execution, and that we can be, I think, just really strong and positive leaders to our teams and our franchisees as well. And when we're running around with our, crazy, we're not as effective. So it's what I know about me.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I think that's true about really everybody if we stop and think about it. So that's a great message. All right, just because we have a couple minutes, one fun question. What do you
Sure.
do when you're not working and not being a mom? What are the things that you like to do, like your guilty pleasure stuff? Any one.
Um, well, let's see. What do I like to do? It's what do I like to do? And I actually love to work out. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm not getting as many in as I'd like, but I really do like to work out. But I love the outdoors. I love traveling. But like from a basic needs, I need to be outside every single day. I love walks. It's my time to just kind of think and get clear. Um, I think when you're a mom and you've got really active kids and sports and all that stuff, you find yourself with really not a lot of you time, because you're going to work and then you're picking up kids and you're taking them to practice and you're sitting through the practice and you're on your laptop and you're doing all the things that you need to do.
You're describing my life right now.
Yeah, I know. And, I sat in convention centers for years with girls playing volleyball for, in different cities for days upon days at a time. And so I think you sort of, lose your own passions, but one of my past hobbies was horseback riding, and I loved it, and I'd like to be able to get back into that, but that's for later. That is not for now. For now, I'll focus on getting in some yoga, getting in some, high intensity interval training, and getting in some walks. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, the next time we do this, I'm gonna schedule it. We'll put something on the calendar for like 5 years from now, and I'm gonna expect that you've gotten on a horse by then. It'll be our step 2 interview with Shane, and I'm gonna ask. The first question is gonna be, have you gotten back on the horse?
have you gotten back on the horse? That would be my dream, like a camper with a horse, just with someone else driving me across the country, taking me to various mountain towns and, riding through, I don't know, meadows and then camping out with fires. And I don't know, that was my upbringing. I loved all of that. And so I'd love to get back to that at some point.
Well, that's amazing. I can tell you that I have absolutely no doubt that you will do every single one of those things that you just said, because you've done all of the other things that you said you were going to do in life. So you keep after it, Shane. And thank you so much for joining us. I've loved talking to you and getting to know you over this past week, and I hope we will connect again soon. On behalf of the Women's Franchise Committee, thank you so much for being our guest, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I've enjoyed it as well too.